What if your commander was a battle? Oh, you thought this video was gonna be serious, huh? You're goofy, man! You're acting silly! You're acting fucking silly as shit, man! Come on! On a recent episode of the Command Zone podcast, Rachel and Josh were talking about Rule Zero commanders, when Josh said this.
Yeah. I'm more wary when they're non-creatures. So if somebody has a planeswalker or some, God forbid, an enchantment or something that they want to play as their commander, I'm not saying I will.
And I took that personally. So I decided to make a deck with the weirdest permanent type I could think of in the Command Zone. Battles. I started by looking at all the battles and what was on the back of each of them. I still went with a creature on the back because, as Josh and Rachel pointed out, different colors can struggle to remove certain permanent types, but everyone can remove creatures. So we are trying to keep this a little bit fair. When I found Invasion of Pyrulia, I realized that this was an opportunity to design a deck where the commander cared about transformed permanents, something that Wizards has barely printed on anything. There are two legal commanders out there that care about transformed permanents, but one of them cares about werewolves, which I am definitely not doing, and the other only cares about double-faced artifacts, which is too narrow anyway. Besides werewolves and artifacts, there are a couple of cards that care about incubate specifically, and then a couple of cards that do care broadly about transformed permanents, but they didn't transform themselves. Then I found this one artifact that cared about transformed permanents, did transform itself, and then wasn't very good on the back, and also it was colorless. So after all that, I circled back to Invasion of Pyrulia. So let's go over what it does. For 1 green, 1 blue, you get a battle with 4 defense that, when it enters, you get to scry 3. Then, reveal the top card of your library, and if it's a land card or a double-faced card, you get to draw it. So, not that strong on the front, but it does something. Once you hit it for 4, it transforms. When they are trans, they're trans. Happy Pride, everyone. When is that anyway? Oh, okay. Wait, I thought we just had one. But there's another one. Wait, that's next week. Well, how many prides are there? You get a brand new beast 4/4 with trample in Ward 2 that says other transform stuff gets trample in Ward 2.
Just one small problem!
Trample and Ward 2 are overpowered?
Yeah, that's a bit much maybe. It does only apply to your stuff after it's been flipped, and not before, but trample? Is very strong, and ward on everything is going to be super annoying for our opponents, who have already been kind enough to let us break the rules and put a battle in the Command Zone. So, since we are just straight up breaking the rules, I figured I might as well just overhaul what this card does and get my own card printed. So after a few different iterations on the design and the wording, we got this. Firstly, there are a few small changes to the front, like putting a line of text letting it be your commander, and making it legendary so that that line is applicable, and giving this historical event a name since it needs to be named to be legendary. It's a bit weird thinking of a name for a historical event, but it doesn't never happen. I figure just calling it Seed Bay works well enough. As for the back, it also got a name and became legendary, although I'm not sure if this Slabhorn would be the Devastator of Pyrulia or the Defender, and I'm definitely not reading the lore to find out. I ended up with 2 designs that I'm pretty happy with. The first gives out counters every time something transforms, but again, since I'm breaking the rules, I'm a little worried that that might be too strong. So the second design only gives out counters once, and the counters are equal to the number of transformed permanents I control. That way, if he transforms and there's no one else around, he sees himself and he gets 1 counter. The ceiling on this design is high if I have a ton of stuff out and flipped over, but the floor is way low, which I'm happy with. I'll be playtesting the deck with both of them, but for now that's the one I'm going with. Both of the designs will give my other transform permanents haste, but a bit more on that later. So what else are we transforming in the deck? There's a small pile of sagas, a handful of other battles, a few disturbed creatures, and some other random transformable odds and ends. And when I was drafting this list, I noticed that together with the sagas and the permanents that need counters put on them in order to transform, that there was just enough random +1/+1 counter placement to justify running Proliferate. So, that's the shell. Transform stuff, put counters on them, Proliferate to win. Cards like Tales of Mr. Seshiro and Death Bonnet Sprout help us with counters, with Master Seshiro dealing them out and then transforming, and Death Bonnet Sprout transforming and then dishing them out. Teachings of the Kirin, on the other hand, will dish counters, transform, then dish more counters. Cards like Forgotten Ancient, Roaring Earth, and Innkeeper's Talent can help spread even more counters around. One card I want to talk about here that can give counters is Experiment Kraj. He does have this cool copy activated abilities effect on him, but there aren't really many good targets for that. Most of the activated abilities are like pay mana, transform this creature, like Skyclave Aerialist, which I don't really think Kraj can copy, since he doesn't have a backside. So why is he here? Kraj is the alternate legal commander for the deck. If someone justifiably doesn't want to go up against a guy playing a battle in the command zone, Kraj and a legitimate version of Invasion of Pyrulia can swap places. The deck gets shuffled, and then I'm all set. He serves as an adequate commander of a green-blue Proliferate deck that will have a whole bunch of transformable stuff for no justifiable reason. But the deck will be legal. So, back to the transformable shit. Cards like the Modern Age, Overwhelmed Archivist, and Behold the Unspeakable can help you draw some cards in this deck. But I'm gonna keep it real with you, there just isn't a lot of transformable cards that do much card drawing, so besides those, and Jacob Hawken being a convoluted way to draw cards, the rest of the card draw in this deck is just good stuff that has to do with counters, like Polywog Prodigy, Ledger Shredder, and Tribute to the World Tree. Also, there's Danny Pink, an amazing card draw option that should probably go in a lot more Proliferate decks. I'd also like to highlight some other proliferatable cards like Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel, Fathom Mage, and Ludwig's Test Subject, which once it has 5 counters on it, flips and becomes a 13/13 Trampler. Now this abomination, while it is huge, it doesn't actually benefit from our commander's haste giving ability, since it's very likely to lose its summoning sickness before it transforms, unless you give it 5 counters the turn that you play it. So why put this on the commander? Well, a bunch of the transform creatures don't need haste, like Uninvited Guest that only transforms after combat damage, and Ulvenwald Oddity that both has haste and transforms with haste. A bunch of these creatures do benefit from haste, specifically the Saga creatures and the Disturb creatures, since all of these will have to re-enter the battlefield and give themselves summoning sickness again. So I see the haste as more of a gap filler for this deck, and it helps support the transform permanence theme. It acts as a cohesive glue that holds the whole thing together. And besides, I don't think giving a vanilla 2/3 haste is a very big problem. Overall, there are about 14 creatures in the deck that I could see realistically benefiting from getting haste when they flip, with most of them being very small. However, one of them is the potentially massive Branch of Boseiju.
That ain't Falco! That ain't Falco!
Branch of Boseiju unfortunately doesn't get counters, he just gets +1/+1 for each land you control. On his front side, he can help you get basic lands to your hand. It's not exactly ramp, but if you combo that with Azusa's Many Journeys, you've got ramp. Some more ramp includes Cryptolith Fragment and Foreboding Statue. Both will tap for mana and then transform. Doric, Nature's Warden, will put forests into play, and Jugan Defends the Temple makes you a mana dork and then gives counters. Its backside even cares about counters, which is great in our Proliferate deck. The Invasion of Segovia's backside will give your non-creatures Convoke, which works well with all the sagas and battles we'll be casting, like Invasion of Zendikar, which will ramp you on the front and on the back. To round out the ramp, we've got a few more proliferatable pieces, like Astral Cornucopia, Everflowing Chalice, and Replicated Ring. And finally, there's Vorinclex, who can fetch you some forests. Now, he is a transformable permanent, but he's one of the few that aren't creatures on the back, and his back face has a few uses. The one we care most about are those counters, and then since he's a saga, we can proliferate him to get all that value again even faster. So let's talk about proliferate. Cards like Thrumming Bird, Evolution Sage, and Dreamtide Whale are going to proliferate our opponents to death. Shout out to my friend Asher for always saying hype as fuck on this whale. Unnatural Restoration is recursion with Proliferate attached, and Smell Fear is removal with Proliferate attached. Same thing with Cankerbloom, Contagion Clasp, and Serum Snare, removal plus Proliferate. We've got one board wipe with Wave Goodbye, a mass bounce spell for everything without 1/1 counters, which hopefully our whole team will have. And then there are a few more transformable permanents here too, like Malevolent Hermit, which is a counter spell option. Ugh. despicable. Inventive Iteration can bounce something, recur something, and then transform into a weird stacks piece creature. I don't know how this works, but it transforms though, so that's good. And then finally we have 3 more battles: Invasion of Kamigawa, Invasion of Muruganda, and Invasion of Ravnica, which when we manage to flip, well, it does basically nothing for the deck besides being a transformable 5/5 creature, which, again, that's good, I guess. But speaking of flipping battles, some of you may have noticed that Proliferate in a battle deck is actually an anti-synergy. Well, I've thought about that, and I've managed to squeeze into the deck a couple of cards: Power Conduit, that can turn our defense counters and law counters into +1/+1 counters, and Nesting Grounds, a land that can just move any type of counters onto any permanents I control. So we can put defense counters on fucking whatever, basic, it doesn't matter. Put it on, just put it on fucking anything. Who fucking cares? We have a few more utility pieces in our land package as well, like Khan's Bastion to proliferate, and Novij, fucking this thing to give out counters. I'm worked up from the defense counters thing, and I just gotta. We also have a bunch of MDFC lands, and now they don't really help with the theme since they aren't transformable. They just have 2 sides, and I just thought that was flavorful to include them. And actually our front half can see them. That doesn't matter that much, but anyway, to protect our game plan we have cards like Slip Out the Back, Ripples of Potential, and Mutational Advantage, which, you guessed it, also proliferates. And that's the whole deck. So what do you think we achieved with the stats on this bad boy? How many RAM cards do you think we squeezed in?
Like, 3, 4.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
We have 15 pieces of RAM, 16 pieces of card draw, 16 pieces of removal, and 7 pieces of protection. On top of that, we're running 37 lands. We managed to include 24 transformable creatures, 29 things that are going to give out counters, and 14 proliferation options. And that's the whole deck. A link to the full deck list will be
Down below
in the description. Some cards that might get slotted into the deck in the future are cards like Chrome Host Seed Shark and Corruption of Tawashi that give really good incubate value and then have transform synergy as well. But let me know what you think should go in the deck. What do you think about the commander? Would you play against this deck? Or would you refuse? I'd love to hear some opinions and get some feedback about this deck in the comments. But that's it from me. If you like watching, that's good. Feel free to press subscribe or unsubscribe. I'm not the boss of you. And if you actually watch this whole thing, you are literally my boyfriend now.